Blessings and joy to you. Thanks for joining me. I love you all out there. We're here doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles, and today we are on lesson number 241. But before we get into the lesson, we have a bonus teaching by Jesus in here, in this part 2, section 3. What is the world? What is the world? So get your ego's attention by telling it more about its strategy against you, and see what begins to happen today. Hopefully what will happen is, rather than things destabilizing, things will restabilize, because at this point the ego knows that your higher self, your right mind, is getting very, very confident and filled with wisdom and love. So it's going to be a lot harder to trick you in the same way that you were tricked before. So here we go. What is the world? The world is false perception. It is born of error, and it has not left its source. It will remain no longer than the thought that gave it birth is cherished. When the thought of separation has been changed to one of true forgiveness, will the world be seen in quite another light, and one which leads to truth, where all the world must disappear and all its errors vanish. Now its source has gone, and its effects are gone as well. The world was made as an attack on God. It symbolizes fear. And what is fear except love's absence? Thus the world was meant to be a place where God could enter not, and where his Son could be apart from him. Here was perception born, for knowledge could not cause such insane thoughts. But eyes deceive and ears hear falsely. Now mistakes become quite possible, for certainty has gone. The mechanisms of illusions have been born instead, and now they go to find what has been given them to seek. Their aim is to fulfill the purpose which the world was made to witness and make real. They see in its illusions but a solid base where truth exists, upheld apart from lies. Yet everything that they report is but illusion, which is kept apart from truth. As sight was made to lead away from truth, it can be directed. Sounds become the call for God, and all perception can be given a new purpose by the one whom God appointed Savior to the world. Follow his light and see the world as he beholds it. Hear his voice alone in all that speaks to you, and let him give you peace and certainty, which you have thrown away, but heaven has preserved for you in him. Let us not rest content until the world has joined our changed perception. Let us not be satisfied until forgiveness has been made complete. And let us not attempt to change our function. We must save the world. For we who made it must behold it through the eyes of Christ, and what was made to die can be restored to everlasting life. So I really love this teaching because it explains to you exactly what's happening. And if you don't take it so literally, it won't seem so hard to digest. You're like, for me, I'm looking outside of a window right now. I see trees. I see a little lizard crawling on the screen. I see a sky. I see power lines. I'm inside of a home. I can see all of that, right? So there's a part of me that believes that this world, that I can knock on wood, is real. Yet this is telling us that we've created this illusion with our minds that our minds are operating at the quantum level. So in a way, it means the ego's ability to deceive us is also at the quantum level. This whole thing has to seem believable in order for us to trust it, in order for us to question it, in order for us to find the course, and then begin to allow love in and remove those blocks to love's presence in our lives, and to forgive the world. So it's a big, long process. It's accepting the fake world, waking up, forgiving the fake world, and then having this very, very different experience. So I think we're all in the process, somewhere in that process, and the experience that we're going to have is best when it's experienced with others, you know, as if there are any others. But think of it, how beautiful it's going to be as we truly begin to see a forgiven world. We see the face of Christ in others. We don't choose to see the errors any longer. That's the forgiven world. So one thing I wanted to point out before we jump into the actual lesson is you can't talk about the world without bodies. So our senses are the way that we perceive this illusory world that our quantum mind has created. And so we get very attached to our bodies, very confused that somehow this is our home. And so there's a little section with some Ken Wapnick commentary related to this teaching that I want to read, and then we'll get into the lesson for today. So here we go. So it's after the line in the reading where it says, "But eyes deceive and ears hear falsely. Now mistakes become quite possible, for certainty has gone." So this is us getting trapped in the illusion and how our body reinforces the illusion. "This is the purpose of deception the body was made to serve. And we saw it when we read lesson 161. Hate is specific. Thus were specifics made. We needed something onto which we could project our despised guilt, the worst things about ourselves we don't believe exist in us, you know, the face of innocence. We project it out onto others and onto the world. We needed something onto which we could project our despised guilt, so we, collectively, as God's one Son, made up a world of bodies. We do this individually as well as in our special relationships. Thus, the body was made with an elaborate sensory apparatus, sensory organs that report back to the brain the reality they see, hear, feel, taste, and smell. The brain interprets this sensory input as it was programmed by the mind to do. Namely, there is a world out there to be attracted to, if its sensory input is appealing, or to be repelled by, if its sensory input is repulsive. Yet all this is illusory, and our sensory organs deceive. The certainty of the atonement principle is gone, its place taken by our mistaken belief in separation, now elevated to reality. Recall this statement: nothing so blinding as perception of form. That came from the text. Nothing so blinding as the perception of form. Perception was made to blind us to the truth and illusion within the mind. And so our eyes and ears but report back to the mind lies they were made to find. So think of that. We created this whole story, this whole scenario with all kinds of lies and confusing things plugged in to help us. I think it just makes the game even more interesting, this play of our lives that we're playing out. We created such a beautiful, challenging obstacle course to navigate through this incarnation. And I think we're doing great. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Now that this material is hitting me again and again and again, it's like, oh yeah, I created this fun, you know, game for myself to play for as long as I'm here, which when I'm gone, I guess will seem like it was nothing. Speaking of snapping fingers and things happening quickly, today's lesson, lesson 241, is this holy instant is salvation come. And I would say the salvation that we're all moving toward as we do these lessons is instantaneous awakening. Like once you get to a point where you realize, or at least you internalize and understand that you created this world, you can't really go back and get sucked into it. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but at this point it feels like, I don't know, nothing could convince me otherwise. So I'm going to keep digging on this path to see what else Jesus has to say and how it makes me feel and how it sparks awakening in my mind. This holy instant is salvation come. What joy there is today! It is a time of special celebration, for today holds out the instant to the darkened world where its where its release is set. The day has come when sorrows pass away and pain is gone. The glory of salvation dawns today upon a world set free. This is the time of hope for countless millions. They will be united now as you forgive them all. For I will be forgiven by you today. We have forgiven one another now, and so we come at last to you again. Father, your Son, who never left, returns to heaven and his home. How glad are we to have our sanity restored to us and to remember that we are all one. So I believe that this lesson is giving us a glimpse into this concept in the course called the forgiven world. So once we go through our process of our lives are destabilizing and all of our unconscious beliefs and errors and thinking and all the things that we're holding in our consciousness move through for release, for awareness and then release, that I think you go through that pattern a couple of times. You stabilize and then destabilize. You stabilize and destabilize. And then at some point it really begins to wash over you that you are creating something. Maybe you don't take credit for creating the whole universe, but you know you're creating something. And you start to realize this forgiveness thing is like a hack. And so you start not forgiving the world's definition, forgiving, but you start to see the innocence in the people around you. And you're not even really looking for it. It appears and you say, oh, that's precious. And people, this is what's happening for me at least, people are beginning to seem so much more precious. And I can see this innocent spark. And I think to myself, you know, I'm noticing people in a different way, and I have different feelings towards people. So something is definitely changing and shifting within me. And so this idea of a forgiven world doesn't seem so foreign and impossible like it used to, you know, earlier in the course when I was just reading the lessons and trying to memorize them and repeat them and recite and meditate when I was supposed to, and all of that sort of more managed form of going through this material. But now it feels like I'm living this and noticing that the way that I'm engaging with people and how I feel about people is definitely different. So this holy instant is salvation come. I feel like we are here in this holy instant together. We are being taught by Jesus through how we live these principles, and there's just no turning back now. I'm committed to staying completely on this path of awakening and surrendering and being ready for whatever additional things, challenges come my way, because ultimately there's still some learning to do. There's still some growing to do. And I'm very grateful that I get to do it in a beautiful community. Course in Miracles people are the best people. And so is everyone. I mean, we're all one. And we are here for each other, and it feels good to have like a softening taking place for me. And I hope that's happening for you. Lots of love to you. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you back here again on the next video.